Pivoting back kind of to like the more broad spectrum of the RevOps and go-to-market services space, what do you see in terms of trends? Are you seeing that more and more companies are okay with fractional RevOps teams? Are you seeing that, you mentioned RevOps factories, like people are actually like understanding how important this is? Or what's kind of your sense of how things are going in the primarily like tech and B2B industry, but maybe outside of that too?
I think so. I think there's a lot more great content out there that people are consuming. I think it's not as new anymore. I think the director of RevOps is one of the fastest growing positions, I think in 23 and also this year, right? So before that, it really was sales operations, marketing operations, CS operations. RevOps is really kind of a new term that kind of came up in the last couple of years. But I do think now there's a lot more revenue operations professionals in the space. A lot of people are creating content around it and educating the market on it. I do think there's not that much more of the problem to educate the market in that way, right? Because there's a lot of that done already. And I do think now with the focus on profitability and sustainable growth, I do think especially early stage companies that get investments, Series A, Series B, there is more scrutiny on that. So I do think with all of that comes a higher need for revenue operations in companies like that. Right? Because they do really have to make sure that the money they invest in different channels, they can just pour money into it and just grow, right? That time is over. That was a couple of years ago. Now it's much more focused on being profitable and having sustainable, repeatable growth. And to do that, I think companies are realizing we need something or someone, a team, kind of organizing the organization around that, building the infrastructure to do so, making sure that the data quality and the data infrastructure is built as well to track that and to make sure that we know what is working and what is not. So I do think the industry is moving to it. I do think there's more of a need for RevOps as a service specifically, I think as well, just because of the profitability piece to it, right? It's a lot more cost efficient, I think, instead of, the things that we just talked about, right? Instead of hiring all the people internally or instead of kind of divvying up the work in your internal team, I think it makes a lot more sense for companies to spend a little bit and get essentially all the RevOps experts at a fractional basis. And with that too, we see a lot of fractional CROs being deployed also, kind of on the flip side of that with companies, instead of companies hiring a full-time CRO or VP of sales. So we see that also, and fractional VP of marketing or CMOs also. So I do think that whole model is a little bit more accepted and welcomed these days.